Ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to talk about the Vampire Masquerade Battle Royale Bloodhunt, brought to you by Sharkmob Games. Now, there's a couple reasons I wanted to cover this game. Number one, the people at Sharkmob were kind enough to let me give the closed alpha a try, and honestly, it was a very fun experience. And number two, I thought you guys would be interested because, of course, there are a couple of twists to this Battle Royale that I think make it very different and got me interested, even though I'm not a huge Battle Royale fan, but also because a lot of former DICE developers who worked on games like Battlefield, which I know you guys are interested in, did work on this game, and there is definitely a soul of Battlefield within the heart of this game. So without further ado, remember, if you enjoyed today's video, to leave it a nice, thick, and juicy like, and of course, if you enjoy this kind of content, you want more like it, don't forget to hit that big red sexy subscribe button right underneath the video. Also gotta shout out my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible, so thank you guys so very much. If you want to join and get access to the exclusive perks that they get, be sure to check out the link in the description or hit the blue join button. Anyway, let's begin. So first of all, this video is intended to give feedback to the developers while also inform you guys who may not have heard of this game yet. It has been pretty popular. It has exploded a lot more than they expected, and a lot more people are interested than they expected, which is of course a great thing, and that's why I wanted to show it to you guys, because you guys may love it as well. So first of all, it's a vampire masquerade, which is a very cool concept because you have this combination of really cool movement. Of course, you're a vampire, you can move around, and there are certain abilities to that that will help you be able to move around more, such as turning invisible at times and being able to spot enemies via bats. Again, certain things that have come from the Battlefield franchise like spotting are in this game, but you'll notice that there are things from other franchises, such as say Assassin's Creed, which I also used to cover, that are within this game. And those are really the twists that really got me interested, because number one, you have this thinking man's game to each match, which I really like. You have to think about, well, maybe I could go and suck the blood of this victim and get the buff that I need, or to refill my health that I need, but I may get caught and alert everyone in the area and get spotted on the map, and then everyone's going to come and attack me. So there's a risk versus reward decision there. There's also the movement system. By moving really crazy, you could expose yourself to other people on the map because you do have a sort of eagle vision, I guess you could say. I think a lot of Assassin's Creed fans will recognize that. You can kind of see around the map, and you can even spot various weapons and areas to pick up certain items and gear for your player. You can also see other players. If you spot them, you can kind of see them in your eagle vision. They kind of light up, and it really, again, it adds a thinking element to it, because if you're just hopping around, someone may just spot you from really far away, and then they can come and chase you down. And there's a multitude of ways to approach each and every enemy. So the way it's broken down is you have different classes of vampires, and each one has their own set of unique abilities, and you really just, within each class, it's almost like the specialists that are going to be in 2042. Within each class, like say you have a kind of like stealth class, they can turn invisible, but they also have one other ability. Like one of them can throw out bats to spot people. One of them can drop like a gas bomb. And so if you run through it, it sets off this gas, it can damage your player. Or you can spot enemies via the bats, and that spots them for you so you can see where they are. So there's different ones that will have relatively similar abilities, but also variations of each sort of class. Now again, it's a battle royale, so the similar kind of elements of a battle royale do still apply. Now instead of dropping into an area, you do select an area to spawn in on the spawn screen, but it does tell you, where the high loot is or where the entities are. And the entities are like this area where you can get high loot, but it's high risk because the entities are very powerful enemies on the map. They are AI, and they will kill you with no remorse. They can be pretty brutal if you run into them, and it was honestly the first thing I decided to check out when I hopped into a match. I want to see what they're all about, and I definitely regretted it. It was not a good experience. Now I also want to say, as feedback to the developers, I know they said in the stream to prepare for the alpha that gamepad optimization was not quite there yet. Regardless, the rebel that I am, I decided to play with my controller, and definitely not fully optimized. I will say in the gameplay, I didn't have too many issues. It was extremely responsive. It was the same as when I guess you could say attempted to play with mouse and keyboard, because oh boy, am I terrible with mouse and keyboard. But I tried, and honestly, either way, the responsiveness, it was pretty much the same. I didn't have any issues with things just not working or buttons not working. That was completely fine. The one thing I noticed in gameplay is obviously aim assist for controllers isn't quite there. I'm not sure if they're planning to add that later or if that's just part of how it's going to be set up. Personally, I would like to see at least aim assist slowdown, just because that can help controller players a lot when they are going up against mouse and keyboard. It's not as precise, so you kind of do need that kind of a thing, and I'd hope that they would add that to the game. Maybe not a really strong snap aim assist. I've never really been for that, not even in the Battlefield games, but some kind of aim assist slowdown to kind of, if you move your cursor over it or you move your crosshairs over someone, it slows it down just enough so that you can get a more accurate shot in without, of course, snapping to them so hard that it just becomes, everyone's laser beaming each other. On top of that, there was really only a couple of other issues when using a controller or a gamepad. One was sometimes cursors wouldn't show up on menus. For instance, in the inventory screen, anytime I wanted to go to change my inventory, I had to go back to my mouse to be able to manage it because the cursor wouldn't show up for the controller. And then on the spawn screens, whenever I would try to select where I want to spawn in, again, I had to go back to my mouse because the cursor just wouldn't show up to allow me to select a spawn point. Other than that, again, it was pretty fine to just use a controller. There were no issues on the main menus, anything like that. It worked pretty fine. It wasn't even buggy. It was responsive. It worked great. Just those few things that I mentioned. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, like I kind of touched on already, the movement in the game is phenomenal. There were a couple of bugs with that. Sometimes when I would get to the top of a building, and it really only happened with this glass roof area, you couldn't really climb over it. I would just get stuck on it and just keep jumping up, and I could never get over. It would just kind of get stuck, and then you hit jump so many times that you end up just bouncing off and going back, and you keep having to retry. That was really the only movement bug that I had. Other than that, it worked just fine. It was smooth. You could move around very well. There is a decent skill gap with movement and how you plan how you want to move around the map. Again, it was really just that one surface. It was just this kind of glass area at the top. I just can't, for whatever reason, I just got stuck on it. So I don't know if that was a texture thing or what, but yeah, that was just my experience with that. I also want to touch on the loading screen bug. Sometimes when I was going into the game, this happened a little bit later in the alpha. Whenever I would try to load into a game and I would go to the choose your spawn screen, it would just bring up this weird screen where it showed like a strip of what looked like the city street and then just black screen. And then eventually it would load the spawn screen, but it would just sit here for about 10 or so seconds. I'm just assuming it was a random loading screen bug, but just so you're aware, that was a thing. Now, I do also have to say I mostly played solos, so even though they said they are going to add the ability to matchmake with friends later on, I didn't really play a lot of squads, so I didn't get to experience that as much. Most of my feedback is coming from solos. Solos was fine. I enjoyed it. Didn't have too many issues matchmaking. There were a couple times early in the morning when I guess not a lot of people were on that it took a while to matchmake, but other than that, I didn't really have any issues in the actual matchmaking itself. The area kind of, I think it's called Elysium, where you kind of load up. That was really cool to jump around. I would like to have more of an ability to climb up and around areas. I could do a lot of sliding and stuff like that and practice like slide jumps and whatnot, but I wanted to be able to climb a little bit more. So maybe if there was like a cool little obstacle course you could try to get through, I think that would be a really fun addition to it, but it's up to you guys. I don't know what you want to do with that, but I found the little area pretty cool. It looked really cool, and I like that there's those little characters in there, the Toradors that are in there. They're pretty cool. But I mean, yeah, it was just like a loading room. So other than that was pretty cool. Also want to point out there was a good amount of customization in the game, even though they said that it wasn't the full customization. There is a lot of customization in the game, so if you are interested in customizing what your vampire looks like, there is going to be plenty, because in the alpha there was plenty, and afterwards, once the full game releases, there is going to be a ton of customization for you to toy around with to get the look that you want for your character. Now, as for my final thoughts, I have to say, number one, just the fact that this game is two things I don't like, that being a battle royale and a PC only game, so mouse and keyboard is almost required. I still had a really good time with the mechanics of the game and the concept of the game, and honestly, even though I don't like those things, there was enough of a twist on it. There was enough here for me to enjoy it otherwise. I enjoy the movement of it. I enjoy the social stealth aspect of it. I'm sure a lot of you, if you remember me from my Assassin's Creed coverage, those are two of my favorite things to do, and it combines it with the first person person shooter elements that I enjoy from games like Battlefield. I can't think of a better combination, honestly, just because those are my kind of two favorite games. On top of that, even though I'm terrible with mouse and keyboard, apparently there's going to be more gamepad support coming later, so I can kind of practice my mouse and keyboard for now until I get the full gamepad optimization. Then I can really hit the streets of Prague and go full gangster on some people. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to the full release. Again, it's called Bloodhunt. It's made by Sharkmob Games. A lot of really cool guys over there. If you guys know Jacob Ajmal from Battlefield on Twitter, he's a really cool guy. He's the community manager for this team. Make sure to follow him on Twitter for updates about the game, and don't forget to follow Bloodhunt themselves on Twitter so that you can keep up with anything regarding that game as well. Also, subscribe to this channel because we're going to be talking about the game, so be sure you do that. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.